name is Lee Collins with the National Flight Training Association. This is my colleague Chris Schoensee with Paragon Flight. He's also the president of the National Flight Training Association, which is going to be slightly modified before the end of this presentation. So I'm going to go ahead and kick it off with Chris. Got a couple of things to say about what the genesis of this was, and I'm going to take you through what we've done over the last year. Chris?
So guys, some of you may or may not know me. I'm a flight school down in Florida called Paragon Flight, and I've been in business about 17 years. And a couple of years ago, I got to a point where I needed some help with some regulatory stuff, and it really wasn't my forte. So me and I started working together, and it was working out really well. And then last summer, I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with what happened with the public trying to lower the hour on the training requirements. That was a big scare to us. And so what happened is a group of us, 5 or 6 flight schools, got together and we went to the Hill. We met with the Senate, we met with the Congress staffs, and we talked about why this was a bad thing for us. And overwhelmingly, we kept getting the same response from we had six meetings one day, 5 the next. We ended up going there 5 or 6 different trips throughout the year. And what we kept hearing is, hey, we need you guys to be at the table. We're making these decisions and you're not here. So what we decided to do is formalize the association and just strictly focus on regulatory type things that affect the flight training organizations and the flight training atmosphere and ecosphere we have here. So, and that's what we do. And Lee is really kind of our guy shepherding the thing. I'm here introducing other flight schools that I know to the concept and trying to drum up support so we can go forward and try to get some things passed. And he'll talk a little bit about what we've done, what we're doing right now, and then what we plan to do next year as well. So.
Thanks, Chris. A little bit about my background. I spent most of my career in aviation in the airline world, but I started out as a flight instructor and had a 141 Flight Training Academy in Louisville, Kentucky, at Louisville Bowman Airport. So those of you who've ever flown in there, you've probably seen the building that I operated out of. And then when I went to the airline side, didn't do a whole lot of training, got involved in some other things outside of the cockpit, and probably about 15 years into my career, something called 9/11 happened. And about 4 days after that, I got a phone call where the CEO of our airline was sending a team of 4 people up to DC to start to deal with what they knew was going to be changing. Much like the flight training industry today is changing, the airline industry changed dramatically in 2001. And I went up there not knowing, they said, we don't know what you're going to do, we don't know what you're going to work on, but be up there this day at this time and they'll tell you what to do. And I wound up spending 17 years. Most of it was on the Hill, most of it was in airline and aviation advocacy, really focused on airline safety and regulatory improvements to all things in our world. For those of you who hate the 1,500-hour rule or think you hate the 1,500-hour rule, I'm the guy to hate. I wasn't on the arc. I was the guy who, with legislative counsel, helped write it in Congress before it was passed. I believed in it then, I believe in it now for a lot of different reasons. But we can talk about that over drinks later tonight. So ultimately left the trade association at the end of 2018. Left the airline world at the end of 2019, decided I was going to take a sabbatical from my world, and my wife did the same, and we went to Florida and moved on to a sailboat and decided to relax for a couple of years. Well, very shortly thereafter, I realized my CFIs had expired while I was playing in DC for all those years, and I went to get them renewed, met the guys at Paragon, and the rest is history. I met a flight school and a group of people who saw the vision, who understand that while there is still a place in aviation for everyone, the days of the Part 61 flight school in the corner of the hangar with a shingle hanging on the wall were fast coming to a quick close. Aviation is needing more and better every day, and we need an industry that's there to support it. So through that, we started talking about advocacy and what that looks like on behalf of a training organization and a stakeholder of the industry that has yet to really fully define itself and what it wants to be. As important as we are, and I will contend that the flight training industry is the most important piece of the linear footprint of aviation in this country because it's at the beginning. We start at the beginning. We are the ones who are doing it right there when somebody walks in the door. Somebody says, hey, I think I want to be an aviation professional. Well, here they are. And we're the ones that then help to matriculate them down the line to the people who are standing down here, even in the United States Congress, saying we want more, we want better, we want them to the best extent possible, as cheap as you can make them. That's a tall order. And they've been saying that now for more than 12 years. So National Flight Training Alliance, we'll go through these slides real quick here, is a trade association representing the flight training industry in this country. We've been asked to broaden our scope and be inclusive of other industry stakeholders, independent businesses, and others wishing to support our goals, mission, and become active participants. Hence, effective today, we're dropping the term association and adopting the term alliance, because very quickly after our launch, we found others coming to us and saying, how can we support? How can we be a part of this? We believe in the vision that you've articulated. What can we do? How can we be allied with you? And I said, we really are an alliance more than an association. Plenty of associations in DCs, that name gets used a lot. So henceforth, the A will mean alliance. I think the other thing to keep in mind here too is that, you know, there's a lot of different ways you can skin this cat. You can go down this road in a lot of different ways, but everybody's going to have their focus. Everyone's going to have their individual issues they want to work on. We just happen to be keenly focused on advocacy. 365 days a year, 24/7, we will be out there looking to advance the cause and mission of this industry across the world. Pretty picture. Florida sunset. Lovely Piper P100i. If you haven't flown one, I highly recommend it. As Ferris Bueller would say, it's so choice. So we're an alliance where all members have direct input on governance and policy positions with mechanisms in place where collective voices and talents are valued and affirmed. Again, different business model, just a different way of doing what we want to do. Here. The call for this broadened approach was enthusiastically supported by flight training providers and other industry stakeholders. I had high hopes and thought this was going to be well received. I was really blown away. Our work began immediately in striving to develop strategies to meet industry demand while looking toward a future which embraces new technologies and methods. We started in earnest, as Chris said, really last summer as a proof of concept. Could it be done? Would it be embraced? I knew the answers to those questions, but I had to convince my colleagues in the flight training industry world that it was indeed possible. And again, they were pleasantly surprised. So after the successes of last summer, where, you know, and you heard a lot this morning about the FAA reauthorization bill. That only comes around every few years. It's the big bite of the apple. And you really got to tune up to that about 18 to 24 months before the reauth process begins. So last year, I really felt like coming in May, June, I was already behind the 8 ball. But fortunately, because of the pandemic and the recovery from the pandemic, staff was a little bit behind on building the framework for the bill. So we had a chance to really get in and drop some key markers way out in front of this whole thing. In fact, some of the things that our speakers this morning talked about were absolutely 100% in line with the markers that I just mentioned. We had an opportunity to really say, look, if you want us to do what you've been asking us to do as an industry since 2014, there are some things you can do right now to make it easier. Throughput is a problem. We have regulatory issues we have to solve. We have issues of DPEs we have to solve. We have issues that prevent us from embracing certain types of technology which are evolving that we need to be a part of. So how do we do that? And fortunately, staff was very willing. You know, our chairman, Congressman Graves, is one who says he really values technology and its ability to help shape this industry going forward. Well, that's a welcome voice, because if they're already, you know, talking your language, it's nice to then be able to offer them your ideas going forward. So this embracing new technologies and methods became a real hallmark of what we were wanting to do. We like to say, you know, the future is bright. We stand ready to work industry-wide to ensure a safe and prosperous aviation community, producing the finest, most professional pilots in the world. That's right there from the mandate given by Congress in 2012 and again in 2015. Some of the things we've put out so far, and we are working in DC every week. We've talked about embracing simulator time as an entire concept towards the 1,500-hour requirement for first officer restricted level ATPs. Because when we sat and made that rule the first time, and there was the rule, and then there was the FAA's promulgated rule, and they look entirely different. What I claimed authorship of at the beginning of this presentation was vastly different than what we got later on with all the Easter eggs hanging on. But at the end of the day, even 12 years ago, the technology that's available to us today could not even have been envisioned. The fidelity, the ability to do airline-type flight training at the general aviation level is now. So we need to adopt some regulatory changes and reforms that reflect that. Working on things like a national office of DVE oversight, which has been worked on by a lot of other people. We're just saying we agree with the work they're doing. We think that's a great idea. Because if it's that important that we produce many, many pilots as quickly as possible, that is a major roadblock. And I've gone out in the industry, not just with Paragon, but with other folks doing this business and said to them, tell me what the kind of problems you're having. They're like, we waste months in the timeline of producing a professional pilot. In fact, I've seen people tell me I can cut down the time to get somebody from 0 to a CFI by 3 months if you just get some of these roadblocks, including the DVE problem, out of the way. We signed on with many other organizations regarding the issue, the PSI issue that came about by surprise at the end of last year. You know, how do you expect us to be quick when now we have to start sending our students further and farther afield just to take a written exam? And they have to wait longer. It just makes no sense to me. Those are just a few of what I would say are 8, 9 major issues we're currently arrayed on right now. We have met with all major industry stakeholders, most of whom you saw this morning, but many others who are not here this week. We've also talked to our partners on the airline side of the house, on the business side of the house, and said, how can we support you in your needs from the outset? And how can we partner with you early on in the pilot production pipeline to make it work? And we're having those dialogues and those discussions. But of course, right now, everybody's laser focused on moving a reauthorization. The bill's basically done. They're not taking input anymore. They know what they want. They've got it all trimmed up. But as those of you who've been around for a long time have seen, sometimes these reauthorizations can get stalled. And we're going to get continuing resolution after continuing resolution until Congress finds a way, and the Senate, to pass something through in a bipartisan way. Now, the big issue that you heard this morning that we're running into right now, there's nobody at the FAA to play ball with. Very few of them are picking up the phone. Very few of them are wanting to engage on what might be called radical changes to our world, to the sphere in which we live. For all the reasons you heard earlier. If there's nobody who's my boss telling me to do it, I'm not going to do it because I might get head taken off when I do get a boss, because it's not the way they want to go. So everybody's playing really close to the vest and really tight right now. So we can't get the FAA to engage. But that's what, that's when you're in the big leagues, you gotta make it happen, right? So we're trying to do that. What's been very helpful though, is that Senate Commerce with Aviation Sub, T&I, Aviation Sub, those staffs over there have been very excited about taking ideas about how to improve pilot throughput. Issues with respect to the VA, yeah, we're all over that. All of these things together, though, are a pie that once baked, we hope will give us that springboard we need. And then we can take the next few years after that reauthorization to work with the FAA on implementation. Make that happen, while then sitting down as a group of stakeholders across all spectrums and say, now, what do we see out over the horizon? Let's be proactive on this to the extent that we can get it done next time around, better, quicker, cheaper. That's really our focus. Sharply focused and keen. Fortunate enough, we've got the contacts, we've got those names in the data files, we've got those relationships over many years that we can lean on to help do this. And we'll see. If we have by the time we all come back from AirVenture in July, if we have an FAA bill, I'll be really surprised, but I'll be happily surprised, but I don't think we will. It could be later this year, into the fall, and maybe not. Who knows what else will happen up there that they'll start fighting about that makes the FAA bill completely irrelevant. And as we also heard, getting some sort of leadership there, someone nominated and affirmed by the Senate would be very helpful. Because then we can get all these people out, these acting and interim positions, and get the stack set the way it should be. So, that's my presentation. I don't know if you have anything more. Oh, one thing, maybe this summer?
Yes. How about you talk about
Okay.
something? Yeah, absolutely.
So next steps, for those who are already members of the trade association and those who are going to think about coming on with us, we want to sit down and have a meeting this summer when the legislative lull is a little more manageable. Congress tends to get out of town a lot late summer. It makes it easier to get with staff. They're not as busy. They're more laid back. But we want to sit down and have meetings about governance. And we want to talk about this model that we have been shared with from other groups here in our world about how we run this organization, how it's organized, what's our committee structure like, how does information flow through those committees from the volunteers up to a decision-making panel that is incentivized to accept those decisions and then put them into place. We really want to talk about that this summer, and we'll spend some time integrating with staff, maybe a member or two here or there. We've had a few that have expressed interest in talking to our membership, so we'll do that. And we don't have a firm date on it yet because the calendar for Congress and the Senate could change a little bit, but I'm going to target that at about 45 days out, 60 days out, get it on a calendar and say, hey, anybody who wants to come up, come on up. We'll spend 2 or 3 days working half the time, and then the rest of the time we'll go up on the hill and do some other fun stuff, if you consider that fun. In DC in August. Super hot. Brief story, I'll try to make you laugh again. Pilots can be pilots, right? And airline pilots can really be pilots when they try. And some would be very, you DC guys, you probably do nothing but go to cocktail parties. You're just up there rubbing elbows. You don't have to fly on the line, and it's a cushy job. I'm like, really? Come on up. I'll take you to some of those cushy jobs. Well, I get them on the hill by 8 o'clock in the morning, and I bring them off by 7 o'clock at night, and I grind them in the dirt. And after about 3 days of that, I had more than a few sitting beside the pool with our celebratory beer in hand, with their feet in the pool. Well, man, my feet hurt. The leather on my shoes is worn out. And I go, yeah, that's how you get it done. And that's what we're going to do this summer. So stay tuned for more on that, okay? Our website's being updated as we speak. I told them to start today when this presentation started. Our web designers are taking pages down and putting new pages up. Should take about 24 hours to get that all ironed out. But we will have an info email address, and you can certainly reach me if anybody wants to stick around after me. I'll give you my contact info and business card and that kind of thing. Easy to reach. I'm real easy to reach, even on a Sunday.
Something I want to bring up is last summer, we got this group of people together and we went to Washington knowing nothing of how anything works. And we did it really out of desperation. We just wanted to make sure that us as an industry had somebody up there voicing for us to make sure we can get steamrolled in this whole thing. And I can tell you firsthand as a flight school owner, it was a little uncomfortable, but it really opened my eyes to how the process works. In the morning, we got together, we had our white papers together, we had our 3 ideas that we wanted to pitch and talk about this 750-hour rule. And we met up there, we met with all of the staffs, 11 different staff meetings over 2 days. And it was really eye-opening to see how much these staffs wanted to work with us. You're walking in the senator's office. I mean, the senator's desk is right there. You're sitting there, talking to the staff. And it really gave me a lot of faith in the process. And it really made me feel like we were able to make change for good. And they were really listening to us, and they were. And I really do feel like we made the needle move just a little bit on that issue. And I hope all of you have a chance to do that one day, because it was an amazing experience for me as a person and as an American. I absolutely loved it. It was a fantastic thing. And I go every single trip. I've been to every single trip, and I'm not a speaker, as you guys can probably tell. But I go there and I talk to the staff, and they're humans, and they want to hear our issues, and they want to help us. They really do. It's not pretentious or anything. It's blew my mind. So Chris is shaking his head. He's like, I don't know. I met with
Saying I've always liked was, rising tide gathers all boats. We've got a big tent here. Everybody's invited. I don't care what your association is or what your focus is now. There's a way we can all work together and be inside this tent. And again, we'll raise the tide, and all boats will prosper from that. So that concludes the formal presentation. I want to spend the rest of the time we've got taking any questions you might have, answering any ideas, questions.
Lee, tell us what you know about this whole ESI thing, like just them going in and changing everything and like that was a mess. That was a racket, and that literally happened over a weekend, and then everybody gets a letter.
Yeah, well, so taking advantage of the situation, no real leadership at the FAA, leaning into one office and maybe getting an ear. And this is just me editorializing. There's nothing formal on this, but when you look at what they did and look at what their business model as a company is, they basically bootstrapped all the contract groups out there in the country as a way of helping them figure out where their centers were of population and demographics, and then they dropped a company-owned center in there, and now they're driving all the traffic to that.
Sure.
And then drop the contract folks and leave you guys hanging. Now, that's not the way to improve pilot throughput. So my comments to people at the FAA, those that I have been able to talk to face-to-face, along with the letter that a lot of us in here signed, was that was pretty counterproductive. And you know, which master are you serving here? Because if literally the goal of this nation is to produce more pilots for this critical infrastructure, you just did us all a bad one right there. That's a step backward by a wide mile.
Sure.
And they're all like, oh, you're not going to say that in public, are you? I go, I just did it. And I'll keep saying it because it's true. But I think that's what's going on. I really do. Do I think we can get it fixed? I don't. I think they're going to dig in. You know, we've already seen where they've denied the FOIA requests through AOPA. They basically stood on privilege. They don't want any sunlight on this because they realize, oh, crap, these guys cared about that. We thought we could sneak that by. So I don't think it'll change. Will we get, you know, we'll get our day in the sun. We'll get something in a hearing somewhere where somebody will scold them and say, you know, shame on you. But you know what, that it happens every hearing, and they don't change anything.
Sure.
So again, like you heard today in the panel discussion, it's about at least raising the question and putting it out there in public, getting it on the record, and then just trying to hold them accountable as best we can.
What do you think flight schools should do with regards to that issue? Because you know, it's like people went and spent a lot of money on infrastructure, a lot of money on staff, a lot of money on computers and real estate and like.
Yeah.
Well, what they did, I mean, you want to say something?
I was gonna say, I think we've lost our moment on it. I gave them the big, you know, go pound sand email.
Sure.
Like immediately after that, and we turned off with Senator Breakout.
Sure.
I think as a group of providers, if we would have did that as a whole, as the industry, I think we could have changed the time frame.
Probably at that point you could have. But now they've adjusted, and you all can't lose money. You're not in business to lose money, and if every test you're going to lose money on, I mean, it's pretty clear what you're going to do.
Yeah.
But who loses ultimately there is the student.
Yep.
And then when the student gets slowed down, now the entire industry has been torpedoed. So
It's a tough call, Chris, because you got, you know, you have this moral dilemma, like I want to help my students, right?
Sure.
But then you're losing $10 an hour, $30, $50 a day, whatever it is, for somebody that has to administrate that, and all the overhead and unseen expenses, you know. So you know, you have to make that decision. I made a business decision because we had another testing center 30 minutes away.
Yeah.
And you know, I took my test there before we opened school. So.
Sure.
A little hard to organize an operational.
that's
Yes.
exactly that. I think that's why they dropped it during the holidays.
Yeah,
Because
30 days before we.
they knew that was their soft spot. If
Yeah.
these guys all rise up, we can't recover quick enough. Let's do it during the holidays.
It's trashy.
Laura, did you have a question?
No, this is about the written exam.
Oh, okay.
Is that right?
Yeah.
This is the written exam.
PSI, yeah. Other questions?
All right.
Everybody's satisfied?
You heard our spiel?
I have a question.
Sure.
What do you think about that legislation that was introduced, although I think it got pulled back on flight training, students being able to use the 529 college savings?
We
I
are
didn't catch that. Say that again.
529 savings being applied to flight students. We came in on that early and said, now there's an idea that has merit.
Yeah.
And so here's what's going on. Baldwin and Hovind have another piece of legislation that they're trying to move that they seem a little more keen on. But I said to Senator Hovind's staff, now look, you guys sit on the Veterans Affairs Committee and you're on Commerce Aviation Sub. We have got to figure this out together and make this work because that's going to solve a myriad of
Because
problems.
they pulled it back.
They
right?
did, yeah, for now.
Yeah.
And we've been told that's just in the interim.
Okay.
They're hoping. You guys know how the legislative process works. Anybody need a quick primer on that? If not, we won't go back to high school. I'll just tell you, It's not, you know, the old Schoolhouse Rock, I'm a Bill. 1970s, right? Shows you how old we are. Yeah, we're down. But here's what happens. We get these bills dropped in, and then they have a problem with amendments. Manager has the manager's amendment package, the chair gets special privilege on amendments. Some of these senators are holding out favors they can cash in when they can bring their amendment on their piece of legislation and get it tacked to the bill without having to go through the committee vote. Because what's going to happen, you're going to see that veteran stuff on the FAA reoff, and somebody's going to call point of order and say that belongs over to the Veterans Affairs Committee, and they toss it. So I think that's what's going to happen, but that's just me applying a bunch of years of, you know, I like the bill, though I hope it gets in.
Yeah, that'd be fantastic.
It would really help flight schools.
Do you want to talk about Donald's?
Yeah, we can talk about that. So Congressman Donalds of Florida just happens to be our congressman, Paragon. We had no idea the guy was working on this. We just wandered into his office one day because we had a couple extra minutes between meetings, and I said, let's just go, you know, make friends, say hi to the local team. And we cruise in there, and the guy we talked to was his legislative counsel. He says, oh, man, this is how wonderful you walk through the door. Look what I'm working on. He pulls off his desk this aviation flight instructor apprentice legislation that he's got that would basically bring the kind of apprenticeship programs you see in the heavy industry, you know, the apprentice to journeyman status thing, that kind of mentality and methodology for a student to come to you guys and train at your school as an apprentice under certain guidelines and then stay and fly for you for a couple of years before moving on as a journeyman. We have helped with that. We've looked at that. He's going to try to offer it during the amendments process of the FAA reoff. But then, you know, once again, the more things we have out there that help to get more people involved, the better off we're going to be. That helps us a little bit because, you know, so let's say your flight school has 2 apprentices each year. Well, that's 2 people you can count on staying for a while before they, you know, head off the airlines or wherever.
And there's also, if you guys aren't familiar with the apprenticeship program, just Google it, but I actually went through it for another industry again. There's government assistance for the employers to help offset the training costs.
Government pays you to train them.
So if you had a real promising, say you got this private pilot student and he's a rock star, you know you want him, you could go ahead and sign them up for an apprenticeship instrument through CFI or II and then get that going. So it confirms, it's kind of like an agreement. You're going to stay with me for a certain amount of time and I'm going to help you for a certain amount of time. So it would probably help quite a bit with the, you know, the guys shooting off at 500 hours or whatever it is. So you're going to have some stability there. So it could be a really big win for everybody.
Anything else? Ladies and gentlemen. Well, I appreciate you coming. If you have any desire for more information, talk to me after the meeting. You can email me. You can grab me tonight. Whatever you want. But we'll talk. And like I said, we got a big tent. Lots of room. Have a great rest of your day.